Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, commissioners, good citizens of Ealing, leader of the council, Councillor Peter Mason, and all of you out there that are watching this. My name's Simon Woolley, Lord Simon Woolley, and I have been the co-chairperson of this commission, ably co-chaired with Joanna Kamadou Rothwell. Where are you, Joanna? Councillor Joanna, please show yourself. It's been very special co-chairing this with you, bringing your insight and energy to this space. So look, this evening, we're launching this extremely important report, a report to confront, acknowledge, and find solutions for areas of systemic racism within the borough. And this is about the fourth or maybe fifth commission that I've done in the last 2 years, particularly since the outbreak of COVID-19 and the death of George Floyd. This one has been the longest. We've spent a year and we've covered many, many areas and been extremely thorough, speaking to people in power, speaking to people on the street, conversing with the leaders of institutions to pull together this report for you this evening. But before I go into it, I want to introduce, our commissioners to introduce themselves, because I want everybody to know, for the avoidance of doubt, this has been a collective endeavor. And it's been an endeavor from people who stood up to be counted in the borough of Ealing and said to me, said to your leaders, the Peter Mason and before him, I want to make a difference. I want to give to my community. I want to give to the borough of Ealing. And so almost on a weekly basis, sometimes, that they would come to these forums to make sure that we had the best report that we could put together. So when I call your name, please come to the floor and introduce yourself. Laura Forrester, please, you're first on my list. Commissioner Forrester, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Lord Simon Woolley. Please accept my apologies, everyone. My internet is a bit unstable, but I just want to say that being a commissioner has really been really important to me, and I'm so grateful for everyone in terms of professionals and also members of the public who have taken their time to share information with us, and specifically members of the public who have, shared details about their lives and how these issues impact upon them. And I'd also like to say thanks to Lord Simon Woolley, but also the team behind this, the team in Ealing, and also thanks to Councillor Joanna Kamadou Rothwell, and thanks to the commissioners for being part of this. And I'm really grateful, and I hope that everything that we have put as a demand as part of the report can really be adhered to.
Thank you, Laura. Commissioner Edmund Yeo, the floor is yours.
Good evening, and thank you, Chair. I am so privileged to be part of this exercise, and it's really been also a learning process, and to be engaged with the community and to be able to understand and to go out and I was involved with the police search and stop and search, and we also learned a lot, at the same time. So to share this with the community and to have the privilege to be engaged with the community, I'm so proud and I'm so honored. Thank you, Chair. You've been wonderful to us too. And I thank you, Councillor Joanna as well, and all of us who are involved in this. Good evening. Thank you.
The other Edmund, Commissioner Edmund Akaju.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Edmund Akeji, and I work for West London Equality Centre. And it's an absolute privilege to sit with other commissioners on this Race Equality Commission. And working in the local community, some of the issues that have come to fore are things that we have seen in our work engaging with the community. And I'm quite happy that we were able to hear from people, and what we have gathered is not different from what we see in our everyday work. And that gives me great privilege to see the demands that we're making and the recommendations that we are putting forward. And I believe that with the right commitment, we can see the type of change we want to see in our community in Ealing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Edmund. Commissioner Reverend Mark Paulson.
Very good evening, and thank you, Chair, so much. It's been a real honour to be invited to be part of this exceptional commission. It's been both humbling and harrowing listening to the testimony of Ealing citizens, particularly young people. I think some of the experiences that people have gone through has left a sort of indelible mark on all of us. And I also think that this is the beginning of a journey, and this is not the end. This is an opportunity for our extraordinary borough, which is a multi-ethnic, dynamic borough, to really live up to its potential. And I think this report gives us the opportunity to really begin this journey in earnest. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be a small part of the journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Mark. Councillor Joanna Kamadou, my co-chair.
Thank you so much, Lord Willie, in so many ways, and to all the commissioners. I think it's fair to say that this review has been a really thought-provoking, emotional, and very challenging process for everyone, but everyone has given their utmost, and it's been an absolutely necessary endeavour. From when this commission was established in response to the local Black Lives movement and COVID-19, which saw residents calling out for change, to now, we see that the issues that face our residents are still there, but under your inspiring chairmanship, Lord Willie, and your outstanding effort and commitment, fellow commissioners, that we have this report tonight that provides that focus on what needs to change in Ealing. It's been no easy feat with the ongoing challenges that we've had with the pandemic, but we now have an outline of where we need to go next to tackle structural inequality in the borough. And I think we should all be very proud of that. And thank you very much,
Councillor Joanna,
all of your hard work.
Councillor Joanna, thank you very, very much. Commissioner Nikki Flash.
Thank you, Chair. I'm so privileged to have had the opportunity to work with everyone on this commission. It's been absolutely insightful, and I look forward to hearing about all the work that's going to go into improving the lives of so many. It's been an absolute honour, and thank you so much to everyone who I've spoken to and worked with. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Councillor Denise Charles.
Hello, thank you, Lord Simon Willie. I think I just want to echo what everybody said, and it has been a very emotional. I work for a local charity called Descendants, and I also work within the education at West London College. So my focus has really been on trying to make sure that there will be a fair and just educational system for all young people coming up, especially since the pandemic. So I think that I would like to thank everyone who's been on the commission for all the hard work that we've done. It's been a pleasure working with you all, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the outcomes and the progression and the continual improvements for all the residents of the Ealing Borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Mark and Joanna, do we have Commissioner Callum Anderson with us this evening?
Yes, he's on the call now.
Commissioner Callum, the floor is yours.
Good evening, everybody. It's really great to meet you, or great to see you even. Only sorry that we can't be together in person. I just want to echo Denise's comments. Really, I've enjoyed working with everybody on the commission over the last year, meeting lots of residents, lots of community groups, lots of employers over the last year. And what the kind of main thing I've been energized by is that people really want to make a positive change, and everyone wants to work together. As you know, we've all had a very difficult 2 years, and whilst we're not out of the woods yet, I think there's a real sense that we can seize this opportunity to really rethink how we structure our society, structure our economy here in Ealing. And I think we've got a really great opportunity to show London, show the rest of Britain how we can reduce those structural racial inequities so that everybody has a stake in our borough. And I just want to again thank all the fellow commissioners. Simon, thank you for your leadership and stewardship over the last year. And also thank you to the staff, the secretariat who've worked tirelessly to prepare this final report. And of course, the support, in fact, of Ealing Council and enabling us to really undertake this really important work. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Callum. Could I know if Commissioner Mohan looked for us with this, or has he sent apologies?
I think he sent apologies, Simon.
So we want to give thanks to Mohan for all the work that he's given to us over this time. I'm sure that listening to the commissioners, that you cannot not sense the passion and the energy. Now, you've seen that tonight. I've seen that over a year. Week by week, they've come to these places to worry this like a dog worries a bone, as my old school teacher would say. And they have risen. They have risen to the challenge to do right in these extraordinary circumstances. And for me, to work with them has been a truly great honor. But actually, this could not be done without a infrastructure team that has been busy and working behind the scenes. And for today only, I want them to come out of the shadows and into the light, because we want to say thank you to you too. Where are you, Mark? Where are you, Joanna? Where are you, Tan? Please come out. Please come out of the shadows, and we want to see you because we want to thank you. Mark, Tan. There you go. Joanna. Let me say, that's it. Let me say, Peter, I'm sure you know, but I'm going to tell you anyway. You have a great team there. We're activists. We want to change the world. That's what we do. That's what we get out of bed. That's why we shake things up. But these civil servants that you've got here, I mean, they're doing a double life, because they've been civil servants and then they come to the fore to be activists to help us. I think you've all been brilliant. And I know particularly Joanna and Mark, they've often been working Saturdays and Sundays to get this right. So can everybody on this call give them a round of applause, please? Thank you. Been great. So what do we have? What do we have in front of us in this document, in this launch? Well, let's take us back 2 years ago, when you look at a screen like this and you see all these different faces that we've got on this call today. I want to take you back when we were seeing faces like this. They were predominantly black and brown, and they were dying. They were disproportionately dying with this wretched disease. Well, it was particularly wretched back then. It's still bad now, COVID-19. And we were all struck to the core about what was unfolding in front of our eyes. And we said to ourselves, why is it that because you're black and brown, you're disproportionately dying? And then the truth started to come out. The uncomfortable truth that because of our jobs, because we were disproportionately in the National Health Service, because of poor housing, inequality in health, we were dying in greater numbers. And a lot of people said back then, well, you know, we need to learn from this. We need to build back better, was the strap line. And many people from our commissioners and beyond said back wasn't great. We need to build new, better. And if that wasn't bad enough, then we watched a man die right in front of our eyes, George Floyd. And many people beat their breast and said, this is dreadful. But we wanted more than that. You know, this was a moment in our history in which I often said to people that historians will, in 50 years and 100 years, will look back at this time and ask but one question. When we saw a man die in front of our eyes, when we saw black and brown people disproportionately die, that laid bare the uncomfortable truths, what was our response? How did we react? And we could do one of three things, Caroline. One of three things. We could do nothing. We could do a little. Or we could do something special. Or we could do something so special, it would last not just a year or 2 years or 5 years, but would last for generations. You know, I know you may think that this is overly ambitious, but this report gives us that platform. The generational change, the infrastructure change. That's what we thought. That's why we spent our time pulling this together. And we set out those areas that COVID-19 laid bare. I mean, these uncomfortable truths were already there. What the disease did was it exposed them for all its brutality and then exacerbated them. And so we knew we had to lean into a tremendous challenge. You know what I liked about this, Councillor Peter? Is you and your colleagues came to this space in this historic moment and said to me and said to our commissioners, show us the roadmap for the change that our citizens need, want, demand, and we'll take it on the chin because we need to step up. We need to be big enough for this challenge. And you haven't interfered, nobody's interfered with us during this. And it's meant that we could do a document that will stand the test of time. Let me tell you the areas that we looked at, critical areas that this disease laid bare. Education, I mean, you know, for us commissioners, it was heartbreaking, you know, to see some of the stats with education, particularly school exclusions. Heartbreaking. But we've got some good suggestions here. The inequality in health. I mean, we talked about COVID-19, why we were dying in disproportionate numbers. Inequality in health that's been long-standing, not just in Ealing, but right across the capital, right across the country. Participation and democracy. Oh my gosh, I'm telling you that Peter and his colleagues squirmed when we had to tell them that they had left us short on their watch. To be fair, they put their hands up guilty. We need to do much better. Because if you acknowledge the problem, if you acknowledge the deficit, then you can do something about it. If you pull down the shutters and say, no, it's not quite, you can't do anything about it. To be fair to them, they said, we hear you, we acknowledge it, and we're going to be part of the change. Policing, you know, the biggest factor that alienates Black youths in Ealing, in London, is policing. And it was one of the most difficult challenges that we had, difficult conversations. You know, I'm proud of the police officers that came to our forum, because I know they squirmed. But James and Sean were big enough to say, look, we've got to deal with this. And you'll see in this report, some of the things, some of the solutions that they've come up with are pretty impressive. And you should be proud in Ealing that this borough, these police commissioners are going to be at the forefront of change, which I promise you, other police forces will have to adopt. Started here in Ealing, income and employment, big issues. And here we spoke to big business. Here we spoke to the local authorities, the agencies that support it, and said, look, we've got to close these disparities. We've got to close the income and employment gap. What was interesting in Ealing is that the income employment gap has been exacerbated by COVID, because ordinarily it's youths, young people, 18 to 24, that are on the sharp end of income employment. But because of the airports, because of the infrastructure that supports the airports, there's a generation from 40 to 60 that are disproportionately affected, Peter, here in Ealing. We have to acknowledge it and have a plan to address it. Housing too, oh my gosh, it's another heartbreaking situation. So you can see why we spent a year, week after week, dealing with these big issues. We had no choice. These are areas that you can't duck. People's lives are blighted by being homeless. People's lives are undermined by having poor housing. You know, when people talked about having these reports, they said to me, Simon, look, too often local authorities have reports and then they put the report on a shelf. Nothing much happens. What this group said, what this group demanded, Peter, is that there is a mechanism in which they can keep your and other elected members and business leaders and police officers, keep their feet close to the fire. This mustn't be here today and gone tomorrow. And so we've set up a mechanism that keep you honest, keep people involved, and keep us on track. So I'm in Cambridge right now. I'm heading a college here in Cambridge, but I want to, Peter, Sean, and the other institutions that cater for the institutions, I'm still with you, because this is a journey that we must continue. And so I put this to you, and I would like you to accept it, to look at it, to worry it, and run with it. Today, Peter, you will say to the citizens of Ealing, it's on me. It's on me to be a leader. It's on me to close these gaps. It's on me to show you that in a year's time, we've closed these gaps and will continue closing. We want you to do two things primarily. The first is to give hope that things will be different. And the second thing, in your interest and everyone's interest, is to unleash talent. Unleash the energy, unleash the creativity, unleash the pride that we saw week after week. Unleash it. It's not that we win, you lose. It's a win-win. This is our opportunity. Please don't lose it. Peter, I want to hand over to you, and then after you, I want to hand over to the police officer who I know can't stay too long, but I want him to have his say. Councillor Peter Mason, leader of Ealing Council, the floor is yours.
Lord Willie, thank you. And let me begin by expressing my appreciation to you and all of the commissioners and everyone who's taken the time to contribute their lived experiences, their thoughts, their emotions, their fears, their hopes into the commission. In your forward to the commission, in just a few short words, I think you capture the spirit of the entirety of the report in quite a profound way. Kindness and compassion will only get us so far in achieving true equality. After Pragna Patel retired from her long-standing role as director of Southall Black Sisters, I listened to her speak on Women's Hour, and it prompted me to go back and watch a few of her contributions she'd made, sort of reflecting on her 30 years of leading the organisation. And one in particular, part of what was a really powerful and honest and self-reflective discussion with another icon of Ealing's struggles for race equality, Suresh Grover of the Monitoring Group, really stood out to me. And she said, some of the most seminal moments in anti-racist and Black feminist struggles in the UK have been achieved as a result of political struggle. And she reflected that we can only achieve this through dialogue and discussion and understanding of what unites us more than what divides us, that we really need to come together urgently of rising to that challenge. Equality and justice are things that have to be fought for and won by people coming together in struggle and in solidarity to achieve them. And the report is very clear. We are all called to act. Race inequality is a crisis, and it does demand an urgent response, and we will act. We're here at the end of the Ealing Race Equality Commission's work, if we're truly honest, because of the death of George Floyd. That moment of police brutality and state violence at the height of the pandemic spoke to our collective consciousness of the wrongs that have yet to be put right. But if we're also honest with ourselves, we know that it shouldn't have taken the murder of a Black man 4,000 miles away in the Atlantic for us in the UK and for us right here in Ealing to face up to the challenges that we know have existed for far too long and ones that the Commission have shone a spotlight. That Black Caribbean boys are failed in education with disproportionately high rates of exclusion. An income gap between the east of the borough and the west of the borough that sees an overwhelmingly Black and Asian community earn £31,000 less per household than an overwhelmingly white community. A decade longer on average of good health for those born in Hanger Hill than those in Southall Green, employment rates as low as 41% in some Black and minority ethnic groups, families from Black and Asian backgrounds overwhelmingly and overrepresented amongst our council housing tenants and our waiting lists, yet overwhelmingly underrepresented in our senior leadership and our council chamber. These are difficult and challenging realities, they're facts, but they have to be said and they have to be discussed and they must be put right. It's no coincidence that these calls should carry more weight in the middle, as you rightly said, Simon, of a pandemic that's hit our Black and minority ethnic communities hardest. Not only were these communities seeing the highest rates of death and serious illness from COVID, they were being hit hardest by the loss of jobs and income and through the impact of disrupted education. These realities speak to the extent of the structural inequalities and the institutional discriminations that prevent all too many families from Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities having access to decent living incomes that they need to support their ability to live in genuinely affordable homes and enjoy happy and healthy lives free from struggle, exacerbated by the intersectional impact not just of race, but also of poverty, of age, of youth and of sex. Kindness and compassion only gets us so far. When I took over as the leader of the council back in May, I set out the kind of open, transparent, inclusive borough I'm desperate that we become and put tackling inequality at the top of our agenda. I hope that the Commission and the public can see that we are already on that journey. This is born from the same frustrations that I know residents of all ethnicities and backgrounds express to us, but particularly those from Black and Asian minority ethnic communities, encapsulated so vividly in the words that leak from the pages of the Commission's report. After years of austerity and tough decisions, like so much of local government, we found ourselves far too often retreating into comfortable ground, into a defensive posture, facing down the challenges and the critiques rather than facing up to the possibilities of leaning in, of listening in, of learning from and working with those who want to achieve change. That Victorian paternalism, patricianism, patriarchal relationships, they have to be the things of the past. When local government at the turn of the 19th and the 20th centuries was criminalising poverty, that same tendency was the prevailing attitude of the British Empire and its so-called mission of civilising its colonial conquests. I do think that legacy is still with us. It hides in attitudes and behaviours and cultures, and it creeps into the tendency to decide on behalf of others, to present foregone conclusions, defend them against all opposition, and invariably implement those decisions regardless. Done in the name of benevolence and caring, when it's actually about power. It's about who's got it, how it's used, for what purpose, and being brave enough to hand it over to those who need it more, and getting out of the way of people who want to use it. Change means movement, and movement means friction. Ealing's history in the fight of racial equality is complex and contested. The fights of the Indian Workers' Association for civil and political rights for a generation of workers seeking out a better life. A community rising together in the wake of racially motivated murder of Gurdeep Singh Chaggar in 76. The triumph and tragedy of the Southall riots when in 79, a community stood together to say that the National Front should not pass through our town, a stand that cost Blair Peach's life. The unrelenting work of Southall Black Sisters, who've made the name of the town synonymous with the fight for equality, against domestic violence, of honour-based violence, and for human rights for women. And whilst that communal stand against racism and discrimination is a source of pride, at the same time, it was this council that was engaged in the shameful practice of busing, decreeing that there should be no more than 30% of the school's population that could be from a migrant household, and transporting children miles from their homes for education. We hope that we would never do that today. But the fact that the council did, within living memory, teaches us that we can never assume that we are always the good guys, or that we've done enough to tackle discrimination and prejudice. Today's a poignant moment to launch the Race Equality Commission's report. It's Holocaust Memorial Day. Today we recall moments in our collective history of barbarism and of genocide, where modern societies that considered themselves enlightened descended into such extreme racial hatred of murder. We commit that we would never do the same today. To learn unless we struggle, unless we are willing to face up to the friction of change, equality and justice will never be delivered. Earlier this morning in the ceremony of commemoration, I spoke of the commandment in Hebrew of Tzedek, Tzedek Tirdof. Translated, it means justice, justice shall you pursue. Why the word Tzedek is repeated is open to such interpretation and speculation, but I really prefer the most simple explanation. It's about emphasis and it's about action. With the clarity, freedom and confidence that only an independent commission would have been able to muster, the commission have delivered a very challenging report. The real action now is up to us and our partner organisations. It challenges the council to engage our Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities meaningfully in the challenges and the changes shaping their lives. It challenges our schools on attainment gaps. It challenges the health service on unequal access to medical care. It challenges the police on stop and search. And it challenges me, as the leader of my political group, to do more to ensure diverse representation within it. And I'm hopeful very soon to announce that we have made real progress on this. So on behalf of Ealing Council, I commit to rising to that challenge. We accept the Commission's recommendations and we commit to implementing them. In the coming months, the Cabinet will come forward with an action plan to deliver on those commitments. We will set timescales and we will expect to be held to account for them. So today I'm pleased to be able to announce the first of our actions to meet the demands of the report. We will establish a Citizens Tribunal, a panel independent from the Council that in 12 months' time will hold us accountable in public hearings for the progress that we have made against the commitments that we will make and the progress of our partners. And will deliver on the resourcing needed to make those commitments a reality. So I hope in the coming days to work with the Commission to agree the terms of reference for the Citizens Tribunal, and we'll write them into our Council's constitution to ensure that they are protected and that they are delivered. Should we not make the kind of progress that we set out, the Citizens Tribunal will be able to reconvene again, and until such time as it is satisfied that enough has been done. So let me finish by saying, just as I said at the outset, both to you, Lord Willie, to the commissioners, and to everybody who's supported your work, and to everybody who has contributed, thank you. We'll do our best to repay your efforts and the efforts of the Commission with action.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Peter. And I like your fulsome pledge to to be held to account and to drive change. This is a good start, but this is day one. We've got many more days and much more change. Before I invite some of our commissioners to speak, I want to invite the Police Commissioner, Sean Wilson, because I know that he has to leave shortly. Sean, are you still there?
I am Lord Woolley, thank you. If I adjust my screen. So, firstly, I have read the report and I have read the policing elements of the report, and I welcome the report. Trust is absolutely imperative with policing within our communities. And without the trust and the confidence of the communities we police, the policing is simply ineffective. And I hadn't had a look at that. When we look at this, I've also seen, though, how quickly our societies have changed. As policing, we must adjust accordingly. And we are. And our plans now to address the violence that have blighted our communities goes way beyond stop and search tactics. They are much smarter, much more outreaching, and definitely much more now involving community involvement. But for me, the challenge within policing is the leadership. That frontline leadership 24/7 to ensure that our officers are 100% engaged within building that trust and confidence within the communities and how we deliver. And our councillor has announced they've got some actions, and our first action is we are already bringing in a programme for our leadership, our leaders, our newly promoted leaders, and that would be for sergeant and inspector level, so those officers understand the importance of trusting communities and how we use stop and search. All new recruits who come onto the command now have to do secondments and attachments to neighbourhood policing. There's no simply into response teams, and they remain in that, and with the mindset they move around, so they build on experience, and as they widen their experience and expertise and the importance of neighbourhood neighbourhood policing within the communities. Therefore, I accept the challenge too, and I'm going to give you a pledge that I will work 100%. You'll have my 100% effort of myself, my command, and all my officers, from the most junior member of the staff to the most senior officer, that I will 100% engage with our communities to engender trust and ensure that we use our powers wisely. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. More strong statements, heartfelt, and the thing is that what you know and I know, that it cannot be them and us.
Correct.
Which it has been for far too long. And so it's engaging in that, listening, learning, putting up your hands where necessary, where we build the trust, and you're there. People know that you're there to protect us, not to, as many youths have told us, harass them. This is a good day, but we need a lot more. But this is a very, very good start. So thank you. And James, thank you too. You know, this whole thing about reviewing how you stop and search, I'm sure one or two of our commissioners who went on the scheme to see what you were doing and the way that you were prism that you were looking at. If a black person had a hood on in the past, you'd stop and search. But you were told, hang on a second, of what right do you have to stop a young black man because they've got a hood on? And so embedding that cultural change will stop young people feeling that you hate them, that you are the enemy. It is a big step, Sean. Look, let me bring in some of the commissioners. I want to bring in, if he's not the youngest, he's the youngest looking. Callum, who has been a great young leader, let me say. You know, what's been great about this commission, Peter, is that I've watched people grow into the role and seen how they're taking up the challenge. From your vantage point, Callum, what say you?
Well, I can only say that I strongly welcome the remarks from Councillor Mason and from you, Sean, your commitment to working with communities, working with residents across the whole borough, and really making sure that, as you say, we're all working together in a positive way. This isn't something that's going to take as you said, Simon, this is something that's just a report and we put it on the shelf and we, pat ourselves on the back. This is a long-term effort. And it's going to need the political and the social will from the highest levels of our public institutions, because ultimately we all need our public institutions to work. It's in everybody's interest, in our economic interests, and it's in the interest of social cohesion in our borough. Yeah. So I can only really warmly welcome the strong commitments that you've both made tonight. I think it's going to have I think that sends a strong signal to residents that this borough means business when it talks about equality and justice.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I've seen young leaders like Callum and Nikki Flash. If you see them in positions of power in a few years down the line, you saw them here first, by the way. Edmund, Denise, I want to call you in because you're an educationalist and you help drive our agenda with education. And I know we've got some people from education institutions, and I might try and bring them in too. But from your bird's eye view, what have you seen as the challenge, and how do you think that our education leaders have responded?
Thank you, Lord Simon Woolley. So I think the challenges that we have is the unbiased thinking that lots of educational people have. It's about everybody we know it's about treating people fairly and equal, but if you're not seeing that person as your equal, how is that going to work? In education, if we look at the senior management team in lots of the educational institute, the students, the young people are not seeing what they look like. We are only seeing old white males, old female, we're not seeing Black people, we're not seeing Asian people in those positions. And we really need to re-look at that. There are people who are trying to support those initiatives, and we need to make sure that Ealing Council are working with those organisations so that we could be supported in ensuring that all of the young people, when they go into education, who they see represents them, so that they know that they can aspire to those positions. And I'm also looking forward to, coming back and seeing what has been done. And I don't mean in 6 years or 5 years time, I'm talking about 6 months. We need to have some milestones where we can come back to see what the progression has been and what support might be still needed, because I want to be able to support along the way. If there's something more that we need to be asked, we need to help do, I'm willing to do that. So I'm here, but I'm really looking forward to seeing the next generation of leaders not being all white males.
Thank you, Denise. Well, this person is not a white male, but she's a leader. Can I bring in Julie Lewis? She's the council's director of education, and she gave us a great analysis, and we challenged her, and she challenged others too. That a lot of this change is going to be close to you, Julie, and where do you think we need to make the most difference? And do you think that this report and our recommendations will keep us on track?
Yeah, thank you very much to commissioners and to Lord Woolley for the challenge. And I'm joined here today by 3 head teachers who are on the Ealing Learning Partnership Board. And Ealing Learning Partnership is a collaboration of 82 schools around a mission that no learner should be left behind. And the Commission quite rightly challenged us and said, well, actually, despite these fantastic outcomes for children and young people, we've got one group who are being underserved. Mm-hmm. And when I used that phrase with head teachers, it changed something, because we are so used to the language of underachievement. And you using that phrase, they're not underachieving, these young people are being underserved. Mm-hmm. It changed the onus of it, changed the axis of the conversation. And I have to say that over the last few months, we've had some very thorough and challenging conversations about how we're going to respond as a partnership and how we're going to respond as 9 schools and over 100 early years settings to these key challenges. So we accept, and I've had numerous interactions with head teachers over the course of the last 2 years in particular, and we accept that head on, that there are additional barriers to achievement and life chances that are based on ethnicity, which must be tackled, and that we are underserving groups of children and young people on their journey through the system. So we are pledging to accept all of the recommendations of the Commission, and we want to co-construct our response directly with all of the schools and with our children, and we want to make much more systematic the way that we gather children's voices, parents' voices, and in particular how we tune back into how we think about governance in terms of how this plan that we're constructing and its impact is felt over the next 2 or 3 years. And I know that, Lord Woolley, you don't accept that changing academic outcomes is a long-term goal, and we're going to accelerate our intentions, and that's the challenge back to ourselves. And I don't know whether head teachers want to come in at that point.
Well, I just want to pay tribute, one, to you, Julie, and your energy and passion for this, but also Marianne Budd. Marianne, let us see you. Let us see you. Marianne Budd, Tessa Hodgson. Where are you, Tessa? No hiding here. Monica McCarthy too. Hey, Monica. Hey. Now, we had difficult conversations with heads, but they recognize the disproportionality, the loss of. Here's the thing about it with education. I mean, this is our potential. This is the teeming creativity that needs to be nurtured, not cast aside in a pupil referral unit, not having their wings clipped even before they become adults. We know the challenge is tough. We know with the COVID money that the government put is that you're already short of money just doing what you did before. So we know the challenge is there, but we cannot leave these young minds behind. It's on us. And we want to thank you, the commissioners. We want to thank you, Marianne, Tessa, Monica, for being you and caring and leaning into our recommendations. We don't want to see one child, much less the disproportionately Black child, that keeps getting excluded. As Diane Abbott often said, you send them to a pupil referral unit, you might as well put a date when they go into incarceration and or worse. Has to stop. We're better than that. And we want to support you in this endeavor. Monica, Teresa, Marion, I want to be in a position where I stand in the hallowed chambers of the House of Lords and say, just take a look what they're doing down in Ealing, where barely any child is put on the scrap heap, where they've been nourished and they can excel. We can do it. We can do it. Marion, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think the report is completely comprehensive, and I'd echo what Julie said. I think it really has hit home. Denise, you might be pleased to know that I'm shortlisting for jobs tomorrow at my school, and as part of this work, we've introduced a blind recruitment strategy so that the shortlisted shortlisting panel won't know ethnicity, gender, age of the applicants, and this is about putting things into practice now. I don't know, I'm quite excited because normally I see them as they come in and then sort of look them all together. So it's quite exciting for me because I'm seeing them all tomorrow for the first time, and a different way of doing things. And so, I mean, and that's the kind of thing we've got to do. That's the action I think we can take on the ground now, because the change doesn't start unless you start the change now. And I think we're all committed to doing, you know, that's just one example of what I'm doing in one school. And I think the tide is I am confident that from the conversations that are having, the tide is turning in Ealing schools and these things are happening. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you
for the work.
Thank you all. I mean, you know, ordinarily we wanted to be there for 2 hours and we wanted to see you in person. And if I was there in person now and COVID wasn't around, Marion, I would give you a hug. I mean, that's what we feel about this, and Tessa and Monica, about what you're doing. And, you know, I think that we're in privileged positions, very privileged positions where, and I'm sure James thinks this, and I know James, and Sean, that sometimes your job is tougher than anybody on this screen will know. But I would think we want you to wake up in the morning thinking, you know what, I'm privileged to do what I do. I'm privileged to do it. I want to make it a safer place. I want to make it a place where people feel that I'm on their side when they do the right thing. Same for teaching. Same for you, Peter, with your policies. The same. Right, James?
Absolutely right. I am very proud of the work that we do, and I'm really doing my best to improve the standard of how we deliver it and make sure that we do it in a fair and civil and engaging manner so that we don't alienate people and we get people to understand that we are carrying out our duties in a correct and just manner. And I think that's behind what I'm trying to achieve with my training program. It's also behind what I do with leading my teams here in the West area, including in Ealing.
You get our support, James. You know, these institutions need to be more representative of the people they're serving. We know that too. We can make that happen in teaching, in policing, in government, in health. Well, I'm pleased that we've got Nia Undercat. Where are you? Where are you, Nia? You're hiding in the corner there. I need you center stage. Thank you for being with us on this journey. These are difficult areas. The inequality in health for the communities that you're serving is off the scale at times. Do you think this plan will close some of those gaping disparities?
I really do hope so. And on behalf of myself and all of my colleagues across health in Ealing and wider, I want to thank you, Lord Simon Woolley, and all of the commissioners for this really comprehensive report with some really clear actions and demands on all of us to try and improve the outcomes for people in Ealing, no matter what race or where they live, no matter what postcode they live in. And over the last couple of years, it's been a tough few years for all of us in health, as you all know, and we've all been impacted personally as well as professionally with the inequalities and what we've observed whilst working in the health sector. As health partners, I would like to say that we welcome the report and all of the recommendations and commit to working with all of our partners to make sure that we take forward these recommendations and put in very practical actions forward and make sure that this agenda does not fall off. It's not a report that just sits on a shelf. It is a live report that impacts and guides us on our policy and planning over the coming years and more immediate actions as well, and our delivery going forward as well. And I personally make this commitment to make sure that all of my health colleagues, and there are only a few of us here on the call today, but I do make sure that all of my health colleagues, not only in Ealing, but wider than Ealing, recognise this report, understand the recommendations, and work proactively to try and implement them and reduce inequalities in health.
Thank you, Neha. So, when you see our leaders, when our leaders have spoken and they want to rise up to this challenge, what us commissioners are saying to you, we want you today, tomorrow, and beyond to be the bravest you've ever been. Sometimes you have targets, and I want you to look at the targets that you've set and say to yourselves, would Simon and the commissioners be happy with this target? Probably not. Maybe we should start again and be bolder, be braver, because when you are, great things happen. Lives change, transform. That's on us. That's on us. We're coming to a close, but I guess as Peter said, this is a Holocaust Day where there's some deep thinking, because we know what happens when things go badly wrong. And I want to ask our Reverend, who there's very few people that love this borough more than Reverend Paulson. And by the way, I mean, we all love it, but he's got not only some skin in the game, but his cloak and collar too. Mark, let me say that it's been a pleasure working with you and our commissioners. Can you give us? I know if I say give us a spiritual sense, but you're more than that. You're a grassroots, a campaigner, activist. What say you?
I think that, as I said before, that this is the beginning of a real challenging journey to dig deeper into the yawning disparities that we've seen in the borough. But this provides us with the launchpad, the platform of hope for the future. And this is for us to grasp, all of us, politicians, activists, those in education, police, health. We've heard so many people talk and commit themselves. And I honestly believe and trust in how genuine that is. I think that the task is, and the most hopeful moment of what I heard Councillor Peter Mason say, which I'm really grateful for, was an independent body which is to be set up, which will give teeth to these recommendations, which will hold and speak truth to power, and will enable this to go forwards and land properly. It would be a real shame. It would be a dishonour for all of us in 5 years, 10 years' time, if another group was facing the same issues and not showing significant progress. And I believe that we can do. And I'm really grateful to you, Lord Woolley, for your leadership, for your guidance, and for your sense of hope and holding the tension between that and the righteous anger, the real anger, which is totally justified, that in this day and age, we are still seeing so many lives blighted by racism and by prejudice and discrimination.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Well, before we go, there's two other people that I forgot to thank, and I normally thank the people that need to be thanked. So, Coffee. These are those council officers that are often not seen, but they are seen today. Coffee, where are you? And Evelyn, you're not forgotten. Where are you? Show yourselves and give us a wave. And I'm an activist. And so I'm always looking for activists, Coffee. So if you get the call to come into the front line, don't be surprised. Evelyn, where are you? Come and wave. Can I see on the next screen? Let me see if I can see her. Or is she hiding?
Sorry, I'm having a problem with my video.
Don't worry. Evelyn, I can feel the spirit, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure working with you. It's been
a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. Well, look, in closing, I'm going to give the last word. I'm going to give the last word to Super Sister Nikki Flash, because she's brought in so much energy and insight. And I think if us men, Peter, are going to talk the talk, we have to walk the walk, right? And empower our sisters, our women, to be the leaders that they're meant to be. So can I thank you all? Today is the first day of big change that all the leaders on this table around this table have signed up to. And we're going to talk again in a few months' time, But Nikki, the last word over to you, Commissioner Nikki Flash.
Thank you, Simon. Once again, thank you so much to everyone, all the work that you've done. It's been an absolute pleasure working with everyone. I really, really hope that the council in particular will make good on their promises. This is really important, especially for our young people. Education is very, very close to my heart. And just because they are the future, and I really don't want us to have to be here another 5-10 years talking about the same thing over and over again. Let's make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you all. Councillor Peter Mason, thank you, man. All right, this is our journey, this is our time. Please feel empowered by it all. And thank you for coming tonight. Bye-bye. It's the report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Simon, very much.